Hello, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started here today. Today we'll be doing a webinar discussing the challenge of adoption, titled The Adoption Challenge, Best Practices for Collaborating with MEPFP Partners. So today we're going to be discussing the trades and how they interact with the projects that we do and how they even do their own projects and what those best practices are for gaining adoption inside of your organization. So brief introduction for myself. My name is Brett Settles. I'm the Global Director of Customer Success here at Revizto. And what my main role is to work with the clients and the internal industry professionals to make sure that our clients have everything that they need. Now today, who I have with me is Corey Klassen. Now Corey comes to us from a long work history in the trades, specifically around technology. He's got a lot of technology adoption under his belt. So I'll let him introduce himself and we'll begin to talk about the topic at hand.
Yeah, hi everybody. Again, my name is Corey Klassen. To talk a little bit about my experience, I was an electrician in the field for 10 years. The last 6, so 16 total, were spent in the BIM and VDC world. And then the last 2 of those 6 years, I actually spent implementing and standardizing how Revizto was going to be used with the company that I used to work for. So I've walked in a lot of your trade partner shoes, and I understand what it takes to actually coordinate a job and actually build it in the real world as well. Started the beginning of the year with Revizto, helping bridge the gap for MEPs and general contractors that are trying to use Revizto on their projects. So looking forward to having this conversation today, and hopefully it helps. So some of the learning objectives that I wanted to talk about today, I just really want to highlight what I consider to be, the most critical elements of coordination, collaboration as a trade partner. And then the next is to define things that matter while working in coordination and on site. As far as an agenda today, some of the topics that I wanted to make sure that I touched on are going to be achieving proactive communication, setting transparent expectations, using familiar workflows, the importance of software reliability, and then how you can build confidence in yourselves as general contractors, pushing innovation forward, and then very short conclusion once we get through all of that. To kind of kick it off, I really wanted to talk about how we can achieve proactive communication. We all know meetings suck, right? Nobody wants to go in and sit in an hour-long meeting that doesn't tend to get much done. Not all meetings are this way, obviously, but one of the things to keep in mind when you guys are setting your meetings for coordination or for other meetings outside of that is, make sure you guys have the key people that are actually responsible to be in those meetings, and then make sure that it's limited to the amount of people that are actually required to be there. Too many times I've sat in a meeting where, oh, well, Joe Schmo isn't here, and then, oh, but it would have been really nice to have him here, or sit in a meeting where I really found zero value out of that meeting itself. So I could have been productive in other ways. The next thing is really just set expectations to really communicate outside of the meeting hours. This is really a big one for me because I like to be really proactive in my approach to coordination and in construction. I like to be thinking forward. I don't want to be stuck waiting for a meeting to be able to get communication and collaboration done. So I like to have shorter meetings that were far more directed at what exactly needed to be. As far as coordination meetings are concerned, if that's something that's interesting, make sure you stay on the important topics, multi-trade issues, issues that are going to require RFI response, things of that nature. The next part of proactive communication that I like to bring up is going to be, don't make it hard, right? This communication just should naturally happen. Leave the doors open, be ready for people to come in and have tough conversations with you, but at least be open and available to have those conversations. A lot of the times I've seen where, I had a really important question, but I was either, not necessarily scared to have the conversation, but I felt like maybe I'm not talking to the right person. you know, those types of things. But, you know, you can always lead somebody down the right road. You can always lead them down the path to find the right person to get the answers that you need. The next part of proactive communication is whatever softwares that you guys are going to be deploying on your projects. I mean, it generally just has to work. If it doesn't work, there's going to be a lot of resistance, right? By nature, we're just going to want to automatically shut down and say, well, didn't work, I'm not going to use it, right? Or, you know, maybe it didn't work and I came to you and I said, hey, this isn't working. You know, we need to be able to have those open lines of communication so we can work together on solving the problem. The next thing is, I've been in a lot of situations where new software was being implemented out on a project, and the general contractor really wasn't bought into the project itself, but they brought into the software that they were going to be using. So be bought in, understand what the software can do, understand what you want it to do, and have a plan in place to allow for the software to grow. Let's see. The next thing is, you know, really, we just all want to work together. I'm sure that this can be said for everybody, you know, in this webinar and anybody who's going to be listening to the recording, is we really just want to be able to work together. And in order to do that, you know, we can democratize a lot of the coordination process, whether that's opening up the clash tests to allow for other people to do it, elevating issues that are higher priorities or need to be addressed quicker, and even being able to reassign those issues out to other people. Inside of Revizto, we can look at our issue tracker, and, you know, Brett, if you can jump over to the issue tracker quickly. If not, I can steal the screen back to kind of show, you know, some of the ways that we can open up and foster this communication inside of our issue tracker outside of coordination times, with being able to, you know, move priorities of issues. We can reassign issues to other people. We can, you know, have communication, and that's, you know, time and date tracked, those types of things, and even, you know, use other features inside of the issue tracker to allow for that to happen. So the next thing I would talk about is going to be setting transparent expectations. And kind of this is kind of important to me specifically, because I want to be able to make sure that I understand, you know, what is it that you guys are going to be holding me accountable for, right? What am I responsible for? Am I going to be responsible for uploads? Am I going to be responsible to do my own clashing? Am I going to be able to identify my own issues that I find, whether that's in coordination or in the field, or is that something that the general contractor is just going to take on and I don't have to really worry about that? And then the next thing is, you know, I want to make sure that I'm held accountable, but I also want accountability to go both ways, right? And I think that that's really part of that, going back to the communication piece, is having that open and honest communication is very important. And you can have that consistency and not only being available, but also making sure that the communication goes both ways. You know, I want to know where I'm going to go to find my assigned issues. That could be, you know, if depending on what type of software you guys are trying to deploy, that may be a spreadsheet or whatever it is that you guys are using. But I want to know where that is, and I want to be able to understand where that is and be confident that I can go there and find that information. What exactly am I going to be required to create or provide? And this kind of goes into coordination. Sometimes that's a little bit of a gray area. Am I creating my own search sets? Am I creating my own clash tests? Are you going to be solely responsible for that? If I ask for a new search set, is that something that you guys are going to be open to creating for me to help me do my job better, right? So again, me communicating back to you saying, you know, this would help me do my job. Are you open to helping me do that? And most of the time, you know, I haven't really come across too many general contractors who said, no, I want your job to be harder. I want it to be easier, right? So, you know, that's been something that's been very positive for me in my experience. Then, you know, defining the priorities. Here's something that I like to say is, if something is a blocker, nothing is a blocker. meaning if something is super important, it needs to be defined as super important. If something is not as important, we need to understand what that means. So, for example, if you have a critical item that needs to be addressed, what does that look like? Is that something that it needs to be fixed within 24 hours? Is that something that is a safety concern? Is that something, what exactly is a critical issue for you and for this project? If something's trivial, maybe that's something that can wait a week or two to be able to be fixed. But at the end of the day, we really need to define those priorities. And a lot of different softwares have the ability to define what priority an issue takes. The next is going to be default and realistic timelines. I know that it's pretty easy for us to just say, oh, 7 days, we need to turn around this issue in 7 days. But sometimes we need to really look at what we're asking and really make sure that it makes sense to be able to fix the issue. Some things like RFIs, you're probably not going to get a response in 7 days. Would be great. Would love to get an RFI response in 7 days, but more than likely that turnaround is going to take a little bit longer. More conversations are needed, things like that. So you can have default times, but sometimes you're going to need to take a look at those and set realistic timelines as opposed to just the default 7 days or 3 days or whatever it is for your project. So with the next topic is using familiar workflows. A lot of times when we bring in new softwares or asking a trade to use a new software, the resistance isn't to being, oh, great, I got to find something else to use. It's that, well, how is this going to differ from what I'm accustomed to using already? We spend a lot of time building up our systems and our processes internally. And then we also spend, when we get new projects with new GCs, we spend time to kind of tailor fit that to make it work for the project. So really coming and trying to figure out, coming together and trying to figure out, what are the current workflows that you guys are currently using, and then working together to try to make it fit into the software that you guys are trying to push out onto the project. That's going to help to make the transition easy, well, easier at a minimum. Things that you can do to kind of soften the blow a little bit is, once you understand that their current workflows, you could use that information to show things that are similar, and then things that maybe are different or a little bit more difficult to do, but can still be achieved. You can also show them that stuff as well. I will say, in coordination, I was really accustomed to having certain things, and if I didn't have them, I would probably be a little upset. So things that I would love to have had access to or already had access to were going to be to create and view clash reports, making my own appearance templates, creating search sets, editing and changing issue priority, the assignee of whatever issue it was. I want to be able to create my own issue. Any tagging for reporting purposes I wanted to be able to do. I also wanted to be able to create viewpoints, and then I wanted to send that information to others. So if any of that stuff would have been taken away from me, I probably would be very resistant to trying to take on a new software. Revizto is similar in the fact that we really can have the access to all of that. I've seen, working with some of our trade partners, it seems like sometimes they're being pigeonholed. I don't know a better word to say there. That sounds really bad, but they're being restricted to some of those options. And what I'll say is, the trades that I've spoken to, that they're going to do it. It's either going to be in the software that you want them to use, or it's going to be in another software. So if you have the ability to give them what they're currently doing, they're more likely to stay in the software that you want them to be. So that's one of the easier ways to get people to adopt into Revizto, is to not take those permissions away from them. There are ways that you can add fail safes and things like that to some of these things. But for me, that would be a non-starter for me. I would be very resistant to even use Revizto if I didn't have access to those basics that I have access to in other software. The next thing is empower your team. You know, I think a lot of the time, from my experience, I see general contractors trying to do what I would consider to be too much. Goes back to democratizing the whole coordination effort, right? Do you want to control the clash tests? Yes, and that's fine. But don't let me not see them, because if I don't see them, then all I'm going to do is pay attention to what we're talking about in the meeting, and that's really all I'm going to focus on. But if I had access to the clash tests and being able to view them, I would be able to then look at that information and move on in my own move at my own pace, and that's usually going to be faster than the once a week meetings that we're having. So the importance of software reliability is also going to be really important. You know, it just has to work. If it doesn't work, again, you know, people are not going to trust it. They're already going to be kind of skeptical to begin with because it's something new. And change can kind of be scary, but if you have a basic understanding of the software that you're trying to implement, it's going to go a very long way to building that trust, not only with you, but also in the software that's being used. You know, people are by nature just gonna come up with an excuse, or they're going to push back because, again, they don't want to change what they're doing. But highlighting those positives and the negatives, right, and having that transparent and productive conversation back and forth about, you know, what may have gone well in the past, what you may have struggled with in the past, and then how you overcame that. Again, that's just going to go a long way into building the confidence that they have, not only in yourselves, but also in the software that's being used. And understand that, you know, a lot of times it's their very first time having exposure to whatever software it is that you're trying to use. You know, with Revizto, it can have a very steep learning curve at some times. You know, we have a very basic functions that most people can get into, but when you start talking about coordination level coordination, well, sorry. The button clicks become a little bit more complex. The workflows start to, you know, get a little bit harder. So there is a learning curve there, right? And a lot of times the general contractors, being that this may be the first time that they're using it also. And that's totally fine. But at least understand that you just learn the software. You know what it's like to try to implement it within your company or just for a project specific scenario. You know, have that empathy with the people that you are working with to at least try to get on their level and try to make it seem like a normal transaction. And then the last thing, and most importantly, is to just have a plan when things go south. We hope that they don't. We hope that everything runs smoothly, but you know, to know that there's a safety net for you if you guys are implementing Revizto. You know, we have a team of other professionals that come with similar, if not far more impressive backgrounds than me, that can help with any of the issues that you guys may be having. That's with the software or with coordination construction in general. And we are here to help you. We're not just going to drop you off and run away, because we really do want everybody to be successful and to use Revizto to the fullest extent that they possibly can. Next is you know, building confidence in the general contractor. This starts at a very basic level, and that's just having your standards hashed out. You don't have to have the whole thing fully baked, okay? But there are some things that need to be set up fairly early on in the process. That is what issues are going to get pushed to the issue tracker, whether that's clash issues or field issues. Have a basic understanding of how that's going to work. Setting up issue creation standards. Are you going to be using stamp templates, or are you going to be using just random issue creation? we always recommend being able to template information and repeatability, right? So with the stamps that we have, you can do that and make reporting information a lot easier on the back end. Next is, how exactly, not only that, but how far are you going to push the software? Are you just using it for coordination and field issues only? Or are you going to use it for installation tracking, safety issues, access to scheduled work? Like if there was, I couldn't get in because a forklift was in my way, are you going to allow for issue creation for that? Prefab tracking, the list goes on and on. There's lots of other ways that you can implement a software outside of the normal constraints, if you think about it a little bit better. But so yeah, just make sure you have your standards hashed out, understand your workflows, have those clearly defined at the team, so they understand the button clicks at a minimum that they need to be doing in order to meet the requirements that you have for them. The next is going to be building excitement. Again, this goes back into, if you're excited about it, if somebody's excited about something, by nature, we all want to be kind of more excited about it than we typically would be. So if, again, sorry, I got a little derailed there, but it goes by leading by example, building the excitement for your team is going to push the innovation itself, and it's going to, help to build the confidence again inside of the general contractor. Let's see. So scope of software, again, what exactly are you using it for? And then be transparent. The big thing that I think a lot of people do is they want to hold all the cards, and they don't want to have a whole lot of transparency, I guess, for lack of a better word. But being as transparent as possible, that means what is going right, what is going wrong, and what are we going to do to fix it, right? That's really, the big part about being transparent. Just lay it out there, explain the benefits that you're seeing, even if there are some downfalls to some things. And then best solutions are always a two-way street, right? So if something's coming down and things may not be the best, get together, have a conversation. A lot of times that'll help to fix whatever it is that's going on. All right, pushing innovation. So again, kind of going back to the last slide a little bit, but trying to tie these two together. What other options does the software offer? A lot of times out of the box, you can do X, Y, and Z, but maybe there's a way that you could squeeze A, B, and C into there as well. So explore the options that are available to you. Again, going back to coordination and field issues, if that's all you're doing, can you push it into install tracking, safety issues, those things that I listed before? And then again, leading by example. What exactly are you doing with the software? Are you just using it as a coordination tool, but expecting other things to come out of it? Probably not going to go over so well. But if you're pushing the software to do new innovative things, then more people will be likely to try to do new things on their own. And then again, it goes back to building the excitement. And I really can't state this enough. If I have, and this is something that I did when I was working for my last company, was I'm really genuinely excited about Revizto, and that's how I would get a lot of people who wouldn't typically be as excited on board to at least try it out, right? And at least try to come up with ways that they can make it work for themselves. So having that excitement really does help other people to come on board, and it does help to push the innovation, because more people working together, there's going to be more ideas. And then lastly is getting the input of others. Shake it up, ask what's working for them, ask what's not working for them, ask them how they're using it. Maybe there's people using it in ways that you didn't think of on your team, or internally, or even on your project team. And then, I would love to see our specialty contractors, our MEPs, getting more access to some of the things that I'm seeing them being blocked out of right now, which is, clash, issue creation at times, certain other things that I'm seeing. So push the innovation, let them go out there, let them do their thing, let them find new ways to help out the project and help out themselves. So in conclusion, just to kind of reiterate all of this again, communication really is king. It always will be. Keep it open and easily available to everyone on the team. Be realistic and transparent. Consistency is going to be paramount, and reliable results and consequences are also going to be as equally important. Give them access to what they're already doing and the tools that they're using to be successful. You're going to have less resistance to change. You're going to have better adoption rates, and you're going to have less time spent on menial tasks and more time on actual issues. Give them something that works. If it doesn't work, again, I'm probably not going to use it. I'm going to go back to what I was doing before and try to do your best to understand the program that you're using. If you're using Revizto, I would definitely lean on your CS team to help you with any issues that are coming up. And then again, we really are here to help everyone succeed. Be confident in what you're doing. If you have doubts, I'm going to have doubts. Take it till you make it type of scenario. If you don't know the answer, don't be afraid to say that you don't know, but you'll find out. Just be as humble as you can. And then last is show me what else it can do. Let me push it to where I want to go and let me find the limitations. If I feel like I'm free enough to do that, I will do that. So with that, I'd love to open it up to any questions that you may have with some of the remaining time that we have.
Yeah, so one of the things, we've got a few questions that popped up in Q&A, and I thought they'd be good to save till the end, so that we can answer them for the entire audience to hear. So I'll go into some of these Q&As real quick. So Glenn Sullivan asks, how do you respond to challenges related to standard tools like Navisworks being replaced by Revizto? So I get this question a lot from top level down to bottom level employees. And the bottom line is that I personally have used Navisworks for a very long time myself. It's a great tool, but what it really boils down to is that it really kind of is a model calculator. We put models in, we compare them, we retrieve information, and then us humans invent a workflow that wraps around that tool, right? Whether that be spreadsheets, emails, reports that go out. Our tool is specifically built for the task at hand. It is not just a model viewer that allows the input of certain models in the comparison. It's got a very direct relation to the way construction projects are coordinated, and it's very focused at the individuals that are coordinating it and has very different rights and permissions for people of different levels. Person out in the field wants to be able to see issues and respond to them. They may have very limited rights. We have a coordinator doing clash tests, issuing those clashes out. They may have rights. And then the IT department may have different rights. And all these relate to the role of the project. The goal is for Revizto to create a stream of information right down the middle of the project for everyone to access. So it is a purpose-built industry tool. Not that Navisworks isn't, but this is built by people who did this for a living for a very long time. And it really is aimed to take the busy work out of coordination and just allow us to think more and do less button pushing. So hopefully that answers the question. The other two are kind of related to that.
Hey, Brett, let me just piggyback onto that really quickly.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't think you touched on it quite well, but well, not whatever, is that, people who, and I come from using Navisworks for 4.5 years, heavily, very heavy into Navisworks usage. When I started to be introduced to Revizto, I was resistant at first too, but I learned that I can do 99% of the same stuff that I was already doing inside of Revizto, and I never had to leave to do the rest of my job. So, understanding those workflows, teaching the people how to do them, and then showing them all the other added parts that we can offer is really one of the biggest things that I was able to do for my team and help them understand and show them, added value to what we were already doing.
Yeah.
And that really broke down the walls quickly.
Yeah, it kind of leads into this next one, which is what approach do you take to get buy-in from trade partners to adopt Revizto versus Navis? What should they use? Why should they use it versus just saying it's required? Also, what does onboarding and training look like for trade partners who are not familiar with Revizto? So this is also a really good question. A lot of the times the perception of our tool is heavily weighted towards the person that brings it to the table. So for example, if a contractor brings it to the table, normally they have been, they've had a discovery meeting. They know how Revizto is going to help them. And that's what they're focused on, right? They get the trade partner involved. And this is where individuals like Corey, myself, David Ray, who's our architectural professional, this is where we try to get in there and get meetings with those clients to show them the value that they can get just from using it on their own. So for example, we love that contractors bring in trade partners, but one of the things we highly suggest is that you ask for our help in training them, because not only can we train them to do what you would like them to do as a GC, we can also train them on what's going to make them more enthusiastic about the tool and understand that it's not just a big brother reporting tool on top of the trades, right? A lot of the information that we have in here, if we go back to things like, the object tree, which I'll just expand briefly here, and any of these, searches or the ability to go in and add conditions, a lot of this was aimed at the trades and being able to use the information. Now, it does tie into exactly what the GC needs, but as you can see here, there's a lot of value that goes into simply finding all of these objects, being able to report on them and access them. So we see in MEP, we need to get in there. We need to show them not only that, but why is the data powerful? Why is it useful? And how can we use it? Yeah, it's just one of those things where you've got to have the right individual talking to the right people about the right use cases. Now, one thing that I would like to say about that is over the course of this next year, we're going to take more of a focus on starting up what we call a team for vertical services, which is where if the GC starts off a project, you're not only going to get the ISM or the implementation specialist for the GC, you're also going to hear from the MEP specialist and the architectural specialist if those people are involved. So there's a lot that goes into, why would you use it? And I think that answer lies in that there are use cases for everybody in the industry. And not only that, the training, the support, the know-how comes along with that. So it goes back into what Corey was saying. If we can just sort of put down the guard a little bit and understand that we do have some things to learn and that this will take a learning curve, just like CAD did, just like Revit did, just like, anything that is change has, we're usually in pretty good shape and we have the resources to take care of you. Now, going on to the next question, Joseph asks, when working on a design build project where we are taking the design project into the construction, do you suggest maintaining the same Revizto model and carry the same or similar clashes and issues into that construction phase? A lot of this depends on the contract type, in my opinion, right? Like a design build project, we see this happen a lot. Design bid build, we see it totally separated. Design assist, we see a little bit of both. A lot of this comes down into Who are we helping? Why are we helping them? And what is the purpose, right? We can do this both ways, and we have seen it successfully done both ways. But in design build, for the owner to be able to go back and see everything that happened from the day their project was conceptualized to the day it was commissioned, it has been showing great value to those owners that are heavily involved in the way that their buildings are built. So yeah, it's one of those things where a quick discovery call, what type of project you're dealing with, would reveal what that best workflow would look like. And then the last question that we have here, and then I'll go back, looks like we got two more, is the hardware requirements. Now, the hardware requirements vary greatly on who is using it and why. If we are in a coordination setting and we are in a very high level of detail project and we're running full building coordination, those requirements go up to handle that data. But if we talk about using it on the phone, using it out in the field, it goes down. And a lot of it is because less computing, the less need for all of that information at once, and we have ways to control that. So honestly, I like to categorize this as 3 levels of, you've got your end users who can really operate Revizto on pretty low-end PCs and mobile devices. You've got your coordinators who are going to need a little bit more power, or they're going to be waiting a little bit longer. And then you have your project management, project executives, who in many cases can get by with Issue Tracker on the web, may not even need the application. However, if they're a little bit more savvy, they may want the application. So definitely ways to get around the varying needs and hardware requirements. And usually I break it up into tiers like that, right? Information gatherers, model viewers, and then information creators. Don't you really use those terms exactly, but that's really what it kind of looks like. All right. So an anonymous attendee says it would be great if Revizto can facilitate examples of best practices to generate the issue tracker reports and clash automation tests, just to give a general idea to the GCs. So this is something that we've been talking about, is adding in out of the box templates per se. One of the things that we've always done at Revizto is we've been really focused on being consultative. And we feel like that approach really determines what we're going to set that client up with. But over the course of the next year, you could probably potentially see some templates come out for appearance profiling, clash testing, stamps. We've really been talking about that. But right now, a lot of that information is generated in the early calls that you have with your implementation specialists.
Yeah, I think something to add there is, everybody kind of wants something a little bit different. So it's, we do have some really good videos in our help center that kind of walk through some of this. We also have some other webinars that we've had in the past to touch on more broad spectrum type of stuff. So I would suggest checking some of that stuff out. But yeah, to Brett's point, we've been doing this a long time. Maybe not as long as some of you, but we do have some of the best in the industry working for our company that are able to help out for your specific scenario.
Yeah, so the next question we have here is, NWD is an industry standard file type. Well, we've made it that way. It is a proprietary file type, but it is industry standard. I'll agree with that. That can be handed over to the owner and user once a project is complete. Also extremely true. Many trade partners are also asking for NWDs to use on the side to coordinate. Owners will not always have Revizto licenses after a project, so there is a need for a model that can be handed over. We have found many issues with the IFC export, takes a long time, doesn't open correctly in Navis, etc. And EXE, which is often blocked by IT departments. Is there any talk of having an NWD export from Revizto If not, what is the expected file handover besides IFC and EXE? We've been having to recreate the coordination model in Navis to share. So yeah, we are stuck in between a rock and a hard place in this situation. Because the industry has decided to take a proprietary format and turn it into an industry standard, we really kind of have our hands tied, unless Autodesk wants to play nice and give us the ability to export to an NWD. Maybe that's possible. I don't know. We haven't looked into it. Well, if we have, it's been a while. IFC globally is really considered the standard. I totally understand that it does not perform the way that we would desire it to. And EXE has been a valuable tool for getting that out. But anyone that's using Navis, I mean, I don't know what else to say other than we're not Navis. So we'll do the best that we can to play nice. And if we have the opportunity to do an NWD export in a way that is fiscally manageable, I believe that we would do that, because we don't necessarily want to keep people out of Navisworks. I mean, we do because we think we have a better product, but we don't want to put up a wall. That's not what our company's ever been about. So definitely something that I'll look into. I can't promise anything. And let's just all cross our fingers that IFC 5 is as good as they say it's going to be, or NWD becomes open source. So long-winded answer, lots of ins and outs there. Did the best I could answering that. And, you know, just going back to what we talked about, if there are some specific hurdles, specifically to you, Nick, you know, get a hold of us. We'll do our best to make that as smooth as possible. So, but don't disagree with what you're saying here, but at the same time, we've got a little bit of relationship management to take care of to get that to become a reality. If the GC is not using Revizto, then is it even worth using as a contractor? Absolutely. I would argue to say that MEP has more value to get out of this than the contractors do. Somehow our tool is really taking off in the contractor space. Well, not somehow, we know why we put together this tool, but what is often overlooked is the contractors has gravitated towards it. When they talk to their MEP firms about it, they are not going over the MEP specific functionality that is in there for them to use. They're going over what the GC wants. There are people that are exporting fab data. They are round tripping information from shop to field to office to tighten up that prefab schedule. They are using appearance profiles to look at you know, where things are at in the process based on custom properties. There is a lot for MEPs to get in here. And I think that, you know, maybe on our end, we need to do a better job of getting that out to the public. But I would argue that our product may have more value in it for the MEPs than the GCs. We just got to get more of you to the table to hear that.
And I would 100% agree with that. I mean, that is my background. We were using Revizto internally as an MEP, and I think being able to use the reporting and dashboarding to talk about project health, staffing, manpower loading, even material takeoffs, QTOs. I mean, it can really bleed into lots of different areas inside of your company, as opposed to just being a coordination tool. This really is a project solution application that is used and can be deployed in that way. So I 100% agree with Brett.
Yeah. Yeah, and then David says, you mentioned that Revizto can provide training for the GC's trade partners to make sure that they are fulfilling, accepting, and understanding of what Revizto offers to the entire MEP team and not just the GC. Would this training come at an additional cost, or would it be included in the GC's purchase for the project? I am so happy that someone asked this question. Your GC has the ability to call us and get someone to train you free of charge, with the purchase of the project. Flat out. So if anybody is on a Revizto project and wants training, you can get it. You can contact us, you can contact your GC. We do like to go through the GCs to make sure that we're not undercutting them in a lot of ways through these projects. But if you are on a Revizto project and you are not feel like you're not getting the help that you want, you are more than welcome to reach out directly to us, and we will connect you with Corey or David or Yulia or one of the people from our up and coming vertical services, because that's exactly what this vertical services team is for, is to make sure the entire MEP team knows why it's valuable to them and them alone. Not even really how it ties into the GC. They'll get that from the GC ISM. Corey's there to make sure that they understand that value. And yes, so if there's any confusion out there, training is included with the purchases. So Viviana, thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. Not so much a question, but you know, we love people getting in there, exploring our tool and reaching out to us. So it's good to hear that you've gotten in there, you've liked it, but you've also had to reach out to us and we were able to answer your questions. So that's what we're here for. That's good to hear. And then Glenn Sullivan asks, any possibility that Revizto will add an object transform feature similar to Navisworks? The answer to this question is yes. And we're trying to think of a better way to do this, because you can transform objects in Revizto right now, but it is more meant for a permanent transform coordinate transformation type setting where you're moving one file to another. What we hope to do in the future is create what we call a test fit command, which will allow a user to move an object into a certain place, take measurements, and then when they're done with that command, have that object snap back so that they don't forget to move it back, or any of those other things that come along with using something like Navisworks, right? Always keeping that workflow in mind. So we hope to get that out. It's a little bit more difficult than we thought from a development standpoint, but it is something that is very, very high on the quality of life upgrade list. All right. So that's all the questions that we got now. I want to say I really appreciate the questions around what we offer, how you get trained. I think that's been something that, you know, maybe we're learning a little bit about how to do better. But for anybody watching this recording, we want to get in front of you MEP firms, and we want to come with the knowledge that you need because we're already giving the GC what they need. We want to make sure that you get what you need. So anybody out there that feels like that they're not getting all the information that they could have around our product, talk to your GC, have them schedule training, or reach directly out to us. Corey, did I miss anything there?
No, man, I think you nailed it right on the head. I mean, that's essentially my job, is to make sure that you understand how to use the tool. So utilize me, use me as much as you possibly can, and we'll work together to get it to all work out for you guys. And again, I mean, even bringing us in to help facilitate that conversation. If you guys are having a tough time between, you know, the general contractor and the MEP having a conversation, you know, sometimes a moderator is helpful.
Yep. Because we feel that what's going to happen in the MEP industry is that you're going to find out about us through a GC, most likely. I imagine probably 50% of the people in the room are here because they found out about our product through that GC. And we just want to make sure that we get in there and focus on you. So yeah, reach out. Tell your friends that training comes with the purchase. And, you know, if you're on a project and you need training, we'll get in there. And hopefully when you get kicked out of that project, you find Revizto valuable enough to get on board yourself. So thank you all very much. And since looks like we got all the questions in there. And yeah, so thank you all very much. We'll go ahead and end the webinar. And anything, looks like we've got the demo request up in the chat. So if you want to get that link before you get out of here, feel free to do so. And thank you all for your time, and you'll get the recording in the email.
Yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble for about a half an hour. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.